Welcome, friends of the toast. Welcome, dark and creepy things that lurk beyond the realms of chaos. We are going to show it. This is the deck. We've been working on this. This is the one that's been privately listed for about a month or better on my moxfield. So this deck I have seen pop up, actually. So great minds think alike. I've actually seen a non-Rakdos version of this. It is a Golgari version, and it looks really good, I gotta say. But I think I like mine a little better. But who knows? Maybe one day we will try for fun the Golgari version. But so far, because I came up with this Rakdos version, I think I like it the best. So we'll go through our creature base and talk about it a little bit. And let's see. So we'll call this the Soultrader's Nightmare, because that's what this deck is. We have Stitcher's Supplier. When Stitcher's Supplier enters the battlefield or dies, mill 3 cards. So that's very good for us, and you'll soon find out why. Of course, we're running 1, a 2, and puppy dog. Oh, look at that. Don't you love that? Stitcher's Supplier enters the battlefield or dies, mill 3 cards, and look at that puppy. That's so funny. I love that. And Gravecrawler. So, she'll get revenge or die trying. And that's what scares me about that. Could you imagine looking out your window at night, the full moon shining down, and you see this? That's very scary. In the book, The Shining, this is... if anybody knows The Shining, the lady in the tub is more like that in the book than like an old lady that's cackling. But Gravecrawler can't block. It's 1 black, and you can cast it from your graveyard as long as you control a zombie. So 1, a 2, and this nice old school one, a 3, a 4. And that is Game of Thrones, my friends. I'm not a fan of Game of Thrones, but I've seen it. And I will say that looks just like what's brought to Cersei. It's even got like... looks like no legs and stuff like it was. It looks like when they showed the whites. So we have a Cursed Marauder, a zombie warrior. When a Cursed Marauder enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a non-token creature. So, again, this is very nasty. We're running just 1 of those, and it has that nice treatment. We have Orcish Bowmasters. This is the odd man out besides 1 other playset. So Orcish Bowmasters needs no introduction. It's really great in the deck, especially when you're pulling stuff out so readily via Chthonian Nightmare. 1, a 2, a 3, a 4 Bowmasters. We have the Marionette Apprentice, and we are giving away the nice... retro foiled ones. So Sir Nicholas is going to get those. So, good for him, bad for everybody else. Marionette Apprentice has Fabricate 1. When this creature enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on it, or create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. Whenever another creature or artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. So do you see where this is going? We'll keep 1 of those aside. There we go. Just so we can show how it works. So we're, of course, running 4 Marionette Apprentices because, in a way, it's the heart of the deck. Now, Boggart Trawler's interesting because it can be a land. It's a very rude land, actually. As Boggart Bog enters the battlefield, you may pay 3 life, right? If you don't, it enters the battlefield tapped. 3 life. Ugh. But if you need mana, this deck does things very fast, so giving 3 life isn't going to really hurt you too bad. But we have 3 Boggart Trawlers. Why? Because it's a goblin, and it's land, and it exile targets player's graveyard when it enters the battlefield. So because of its mana cost, we can certainly bring that back. Now here's where mine gets a little different. Geralf's Messenger has been kind of like a dead draw lately. You don't see it much in Modern. You don't really see it. I think it's banned in other formats, maybe. Not Commander, of course, but I think, of course, Pioneer, it's not legal. Was this banned in Modern? But in any case, it's not banned in Modern now. For some reason, I thought it was. But Geralf's Messenger enters the battlefield tapped. When Geralf's Messenger enters the battlefield, target opponent loses 2 life. It's 3 black. Undying. When this creature dies, if it had no 1/1 counters on it, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a 1/1 counter on it. So you have a 4 damage guarantee here. If it dies, it gets that undying. You're going to do that damage again. If it's in the graveyard, you can return it to the battlefield via one of our things. So it's going to be kind of always doing damage, even though it's just to target opponent. So we have one of those in the main deck. Now here is the Golden Pig, oink oink. And I love me some of this artwork here. I just couldn't resist. Look at that. 2 and a black, we get the Zombie Goblin Wizard. And isn't she beautiful? Pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature, create a treasure token. 1, 2, 3, 4. So those are our creatures, but let's hold up the show here real quick. And let's have a little peek here. So let's say we have a Marionette Apprentice out, right? Let's say we have a Warren Soultrader. If we have a Gravecrawler out, we can sacrifice another creature. So let's just take a token, for instance. I always like this one. Yeah. Oh well, we'll slow it down. Basically this. So, Marionette Apprentice, whenever another creature or artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. So, boop. And we'll call that our treasure token, because I can't find it. I think it's over here. Let me see. We like to do it right. There it is. Okay. So there's our treasure, right? Sack it, use the treasure, pay 1 life, bring back Gravecrawler, sack it. So we're paying 1 life, but our opponent's losing 2 life. So that's pretty good for us. Because pretty much wherever we're at, as long as our opponent doesn't have a ton of life, that's going to do a very good piece of work for us. And that is our main win con. Like this deck is really consistently able to pull this off. All right. Further and further we go into the nightmare. All right, let's see here. Getting down to mana base. There's that. Okay, sure. All right, here we go. So we have our special enchantment and the namesake, right? Soultrader's Nightmare. So when Chthonian Nightmare or Soultrader's Nightmare for our intents and purposes enters the battlefield, you get 3 energy counters. 3. Okay, so you can pay X, sacrifice a creature, return Chthonian Nightmare to its owner's hand, return target creature card with mana value X from your graveyard to the battlefield to activate only as a sorcery. So of course that is really good, and I will tell you why. Because we immediately have 3. Warren Soultrader, things that we've milled in our graveyard are 3. That's very good. So Chthonian Nightmare, I think that explains the name of the deck. So being able to do that, whether it be for a Bowmaster, whatever it's for, and returning this to our hand and being able to play it out again is just great. So of course we're running 4 of those. Some people run 3 in a Goblin Bombardment, and we may do a little testing with Goblin Bombardment. We have one around here somewhere. We have 1 Agadeem's Awakening. So it has a land, enters the battlefield tapped unless you pay 3 life. That's kind of horrifying, but as we're filling this graveyard, return from your graveyard to the battlefield any number of target creature cards that each have a different converted mana cost X or less. So the most we should ever pay for this is 6, and pretty nice. So here we have the Village Rites. In addition to the 1 mana to play this, sacrifice a creature and draw 2 cards. So it's almost like getting to draw 2 cards. And if we want a creature in the graveyard for some reason anyways, let's say we have Marionette Apprentice out, this card's just going to be very great for us, which is why we sideboard another one. All right, there we go. Okay, so we have some instants here. We have Flare of Malice. You may sacrifice a non-token black creature rather than pay the spell's mana cost. Very good for us. Each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker with the greatest mana value among creatures and planeswalkers they control. Very powerful. Very good. This is an Eldrazi wipeout, man. Eldrazi Summer. You know what their favorite song in Eldrazi Summer is? Wipeout. Oh, boomer jokes, man. I'm full of them. Each opponent sacrifices that creature or planeswalker with the greatest mana value among creatures and planeswalkers they control. Oh, good in Commander, good in Modern, good in any format that allows it, really, that wants to sacrifice something, because making someone sacrifice something is very, very rude. And look at this. Here's the full art one. Kind of nice, right? Something about that reminds me of like Mad Max. All right, we have Thoughtseize here. Target player reveals his or her hand. You choose a non-land card from it. Target player discards that card. You lose 2 life. A staple in black. 1, a 2. We have this cool one here we got. And we have this super cool one from our LGS right here, Thoughtseize. Target player reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. You lose 2 life. Now let's look at that fragile flavor text there. The mind is a fragile thing. Remove the smallest fragment and the whole thing starts to fall apart. That is true. So true. All right, and we have Unearth here. And it's full art fun. Return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's got that cycling too. Cycle 2, draw a card. That's not bad, but pretty much we're going to be returning creatures. So, in essence, even though this is a sorcery, if there's not a lot of graveyard hate going on, this is a wonderful way to get those back. In a way, you guys can see how this kind of evolved from, it's like a really great, like really optimized version of Sometimes Dead is Better in a way. So here's our mana base. We have 1, 2 swamps. And there's the other ones. Oops. So here's our fetchable vegetables. Fetchable vegetables being this tree right here. Got 2 swamps and 2 more swamps. So 4 swamps. We have a Blood Crypt and a Raucous Theater to give us that little splash of red. We have a Phyrexian Tower. So you add a colorless, but if you sacrifice a creature, you add 2 black. And that is wonderful for us. But it is a legendary land, and we are only running 1. We have the Dead Marshes, legendary land. Each land is a swamp in addition to its other land types. So this is great early game. And it saves you from having to like fetch early and be like, oh, do I need to get a Blood Crypt? Do I need it untapped? Because if you play this on turn 1 and then play one of your fetch lands, you can tap the fetch land as a swamp. So that's pretty sweet. We have Spymaster's Vault. Enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a swamp, and we will be. So tap, add 1 black. Pay 1 black and tap. Target creature you control connives X, where X is the number of creatures that died this turn. So with our sacrificing of creatures all the time, this will be good to allow us to draw X cards. That's what connive is. Draw X cards and discard X cards and put a 1/1 counter on creature for each non-land card discarded this way. So discarding things like Gravecrawler is no big deal. 1, a 2, a 3. 3 of those, just 3. Because, well, it has some things about it that aren't detrimental to what we're doing. But it is a great card, and running 4 of them would be just fine. We have Bloodstained Mire here. Oh, look at that. 1, a 2, a 3. We have Polluted Delta. 1. We have Marsh Flats. 1. We have Verdant Catacombs. Verdant Catacombs. Yes, that one will go down in the history books. Verdant Catacombs. And an Orc army in the back. And we got some servo tokens. We've got some energy. We've got a nice treasure there. Let's talk a little bit about our sideboard. And we will have a deck list. This is still private, but after I put this video up, I will make it public, and anybody can search it out and find the deck list for themselves. Now, this may change a little bit. There's a few cards that I ordered that I didn't get, so I was like, And I thought about their viability, and I'm like, well, I would like to have the cards for more testing, but this is the sideboard as it is right now. It may change a little bit. So we have Village Rites, another one. So additional cost to cast a spell, sack a creature, draw 2 cards, and it is an instant. Very good. We have 2 Fatal Push. Destroy target creature if it has converted mana cost 2 or less. In Revolt, destroy that creature if it has converted mana cost 4 or less. Instead, if a permanent you controlled left the battlefield this turn. Now, I really like that because that is Grief right there. So I love the card Grief. And as a Grief player, I can say that a deck like this is a dangerous card. 2 of those. We have Rakdos Charm. I didn't think the Rakdos had any charm, but maybe I'm wrong. Choose one. Exile all cards from target player's graveyard, or destroy target artifact, or each creature deals 1 damage to its controller. So it's an instant late game if we have board gets scary, like if there's some token elements, a bunch of 1/1s, something like that. Our opponent maybe has 8 life and we're going to swing in. Our opponent feels confident. They're like, you know what? We will go ahead. You do that. You swing in. We'll take that 5 damage because we'll still have 3 life left. Then you just play Rakdos Charm over the top of that and then have their creatures deal that damage to them. So very nice. We're running 4 of those. And this is the card. This is why, like, Rakdos Charm is a great card if used properly. Like Reign of Gore, if a spell or ability would cause its controller to gain life, that player loses that much life instead. So this will shut you down, Joe. 1 or 2 of those. Now here's our other Geralf's Messenger. So if we're going against a deck that's not very creature heavy, this can be a very aggro fellow here, being a 4/3. It's kind of like Grief Light. It's like a fair Grief in a way. Because is it scammable? Yes, it does the 2 damage. But it doesn't empty the hand, but scammable, quite. All right, we have Fulminator Mage. Now there's something really fun that we can do with this. So sacrifice Fulminator Mage, destroy target non-basic land. So of course, if anybody's familiar with using Fulminator Mage, this is a card that we can cast a few times out of our graveyard. So if we put this from the sideboard into our hand when we go like full Rakdos for sideboarding, if we put this into our graveyard with Chthonian Nightmare, in any case, with Chthonian Nightmare, we can play this out of our graveyard. And of course we can unearth this. Whoops. Of course we can unearth it. But taking, people say like, oh, big deal. You can sacrifice it, destroy a non-basic land, bring it back, sacrifice it, destroy a non-basic land. Somebody actually said that to me when I was talking about this deck the other day. And I said, yeah, but in Modern, by turn 3, like if you cheat this out with Unearth, like say you play Stitcher's Supplier. So we play Stitcher's Supplier, mill your 3 cards, you got Fulminator Mage in there. In your hand, you have some kind of recursion, whether it be the Chthonian Nightmare or Unearth. And even so, like I think it would almost be worth it to do like a one-of Persist in this deck. Maybe even in the sideboard, just 1 Persist to throw in there just to give something extra, even though it's 1 in a black and not just a black. But so far, like testing this out, I do feel like the Unearths are doing the job just fine. And I love the cycling on Unearth too. So bouncing this back a couple times is devastating because the person I was talking about was mostly a commander player. So that's why 3 of these. We have Surgical Extraction. Choose target card in a graveyard other than a basic land card. Search its owner's graveyard, hand, and library for any number of cards with the same name as that card and exile, and then that player shuffles. 1, 2. So if somebody's got a greedy mana base, you can definitely search up non-basic lands and empty their fetch lands. That's pretty much why I like to keep a varied color base of fetch lands in a lot of my decks, just so this doesn't happen. I used to be a guy way back when where I'd match the fetches. Not smart. That's a newbie move. All right, choose a card name other than a basic land card. Now this is 1 and 2 black, but we can choose this on turn 3. Search target opponent's Graveyard, hand, and library for any number of cards with that name and exile them. That player shuffles their library, then creates a 2/2 black zombie creature token for each card exiled from their hand this way. So, obviously, playing this turn 3, you could actually play this turn 2. I think, yeah, let me think. I'd have to do the math, but I feel like I could play this turn 2. No, I couldn't because I don't think, do I have? Yes, I can because, no, I can't. I'd have to add the shambling gas. Sorry, as you see, I've been playtesting the heck out of this. So if it had a shambling ghast in it and you sacrifice the ghast, create a treasure token on turn 1. On turn 3, play your land, play this, and say Nadu. That would be really good. So turn 2, you empty Nadu. Hint, hint, wizards. So there is our sideboard. Like I said, I think that using Grist the Hunger Tide is really good. I can totally see Pick Your Poison being so good in this. But it is, I just really like this. Each creature deals 1 damage to its controller. I like Reign of Gore. But other than that, I think that the Gruul one is like really creative, and I was a little disappointed when I saw it because I didn't think of that. I was like, Rakdos, because I was thinking of Rakdos Charm, Reign of Gore, and at the time, Fulminator Mage, which is proven to actually, I think there's a couple of these in the Golgari version. So yeah, kudos to whoever came up with the Golgari version because it's pretty sweet. And as far as the Rakdos, we'll see. Maybe it'll turn into a Golgari version, but so far I'm loving it.